Today, we're going to roast coffee with sunlight. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your first thought's going to be something like this. We're not doing this. People have done that, actually. They've focused the sun's rays to roast coffee. Terrifying. We're going to do something a little bit more practical. Maybe not practical. Something with real-world implications. I'm going to use the sun to roast coffee with this. Now, I'm out here in California to visit Bellwether. They make this roaster. I've been an advisor to them for 4 or 5 years now. And I had this idea, and I told them I want to take a roaster to the desert, capture the sunlight, turn it into coffee, and they agreed to help make that happen, which makes this a sponsored video, and therefore also, because I'm using the roaster, it makes it an ad. But let me explain exactly what it is that I'm trying to do here. Now this is the coffee we're going to be roasting today. It's a Guatemalan coffee called Manos de Mujer. We're going to give it away afterwards, so we'll tell you more about that later. So let me show you this thing, because it's so cool. This is a solar trailer, and it's kind of what it sounds like. You've got a big solar panel, not huge, but a good size, on top of the trailer, and inside the trailer are a bunch of batteries, which means that we can capture a full day's sunshine. This thing has been here since the sun came up, and we're going to let it catch all of the day, and when it gets to kind of sunset, we're going to use what we stored and roast as much coffee as we can. And I don't yet know how much coffee that's going to be. How viable is it to run a roaster on something like solar power? So I should probably explain why I would work with Bellwether. I have a kind of conflict here. I have a coffee roasting company that supplies cafes, and they build coffee roasting machines for cafes to roast their own coffee. Am I helping a competitor? Well, I don't really see it that way. Now, the reason that Bellwether is interesting to me is how coffee is generally roasted. Pretty much every cup of coffee drunk today is roasted using natural gas. That's what's firing the roaster, creating the heat, and often burning the smoke that comes out of the roaster. And we use a lot of gas. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. But we haven't really considered an alternative because for a long time, gas was cheap, gas was easy. Loads of people are using machines that were built even before the Exxon engineers worked out that, you know, what they were doing was bad for the environment. There have been electric roasters before, commercial roasters, but generally speaking, they were kind of normal gas roasters, but with a different heat source, and they weren't really engineered to be the best of that kind of fuel type. And people didn't like them, and no one really considered them. And then Bellwether came along and made me reconsider the future, because at some point we have to stop burning gas. We have to. Either we're going to run out, or we're going to accept that burning that much gas is just a very bad thing to do to the environment. Now, the challenge of electricity is scale. Now, that machine needs about 9 kilowatts of power. That's about the same as like a 3-group espresso machine. And it roasts about 3 kilos of coffee at a time. And if you have a roaster that roasts maybe 90 kilos of coffee at a time, well, that seems like a difficult thing to scale. Like, you'd need an awful lot of electricity, that'd be a very fat cable, to make that whole thing work. As we begin to electrify everything, things like cars, I think we're beginning to understand the infrastructure needs to do it, and so that much energy is not actually a ridiculous thing to use in a commercial business. When you're using electricity, you can get it from anywhere. And so that's why I wanted to see how viable something like solar was. I wanted to just catch some free sunlight and use it, because why not? Are we going to get much coffee out? I don't know. In fact, while we wait for the sun to set, we should probably do a little bit of maths. Welcome to my TED Talk. Now, here on the whiteboard, you see some beautifully rendered artistic versions of the things we're using today. We have a Bellwether roaster, we have the solar trailer, and of course the sun. Well, the sun. We're going to have to cover the maths of how this all works. Now, light hits the solar panel, magic happens. You know what I mean? Like this bullying of electrons out of positions and things I don't even understand, but it's converted to energy. Now, they say on a good day, we can get between 10 to 15 kilowatt hours of energy. That's the kind of way that we talk about this. So you could discharge, say, 15 kilowatts of power for 1 hour before you deplete what you've gained. I'm hoping we get close to 15 because it's been a beautiful sunny day. It's looking good. Now, how much are you going to use to roast coffee? Now, I don't really have the numbers for Bellwether. We're going to find that out in a little bit, but I do have the numbers for gas roasting. Per kilo, I think, roughly for everything, right? Like that's heating up roasters, running sort of roaster between batches, everything. We're looking at 0.8 kilowatt hours per kilo of coffee. That was quite hard to write. So if we got the maximum of 15 kilowatt hours and we was, you know, a gas roaster, we would say we would get about 18.75 kilos of roasted coffee out. But there's a problem, right? It's really hard to kind of factor in warm up in this whole thing. Because every time you use a roaster, you have to heat it up, and that uses really quite a lot of energy. And the more batches you do after the warm-up, the more efficient that warm-up was per kilo. Today, we're not gonna have that much energy. We're not gonna be able to roast like 20 batches of coffee, so our warm-up's gonna be pretty impactful. I think that it will take about half an hour to heat the roaster. This roaster pulls 9.5 kilowatt hours, and so half of that, because half an hour, would be 4.5 kilowatts of energy just to get it hot, which feels stressful. If we've got only 15, we've got to use basically a third of what we've captured to heat it up. The question is going to be, how efficient is it once it's running? How much coffee can we actually roast from a reasonably small solar panel from one day's energy? As the sun sets, we're going to find out. As you can see, the sun is gone from the sky. I checked the battery. We got just under 14 kilowatt hours of energy, which I think is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I have to be honest with you. I would be terrified to do this with most roasting machines because frankly, I'm not a coffee roaster. I've never really claimed to be a coffee roaster. I have an involvement in a coffee roasting company, but it's not me in front of the roaster every day cranking out batch after batch. That's not my skill set. So the idea of roasting a bunch of coffee that I don't know super well on a machine that I don't know super well that loads of people will taste should be terrifying, but it's kind of not. This is a perfect machine for me right now. Once it's preheated, it's going to be time to roast, the moment of truth. We'll have used, I think, around 4.5 kilowatts of that 14 to start with. I don't know what we'll get out of the remaining kind of 9.5. We will see. All I have to do for this whole thing to work is there's a bunch of profiles of different coffees loaded here. I'm going to select the one that has my name on it, because that's the one we worked on. And then it knows preheat temperature, all of that kind of stuff. And once it reaches preheat temperature, as long as there's coffee in the hopper, then it'll start roasting. We should put some coffee in the hopper. It has begun. Now it's like I do nothing for like 8 minutes. I feel useless. In a good way. We're nearly there. 6 seconds left till the first roast is done. The game today is going to be speed. How quickly can we turn it around, get more coffee done? We have coffee. Batch number 1 is done. Batch 2, complete. So I just did a quick check after the second batch, and for the roasting process, from the start where the coffee goes in until it comes out roasted, it used around about 0.3 kilowatts per kilo of green coffee, which is good. But it certainly says the more we'd be able to roast continuously, the more efficiency we would obviously get. We are making our lives slightly complicated by running this light on the solar battery because we're in the desert and there's no electrical sockets. And that's pulling like 500 watts of power, maybe a little bit less now. But that's having an impact, so I'll kind of work it out at the end and we'll be able to calculate how much this used, how much this used, how much coffee we got. It's getting cold. I think I need a jacket. We've got 15 kilos of coffee with us. I'm feeling very confident we're going to get through all of it today. This is about to be the 4th batch going in. We've been roasting for about an hour now. And so a couple of batches left. It's going well. Last one. So batch 5, the final batch for the day or night, is in the cooling tray. And I just checked the battery and we've used pretty much exactly what we captured today to get to this point. I think I need to check with the light, it's a little bit confusing. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I made the call that we would make this final batch. We're gonna cheat slightly and use a little bit more energy because we're gonna cool this down sensibly and properly. It won't use that much energy, but it will use more than we captured today, technically speaking. I just wanna be above board. So we're gonna get it all packed up. This is everything packed down. For some reason, we thought it would be a good idea to actually stay out here in the desert. So I'm gonna go to bed in the lonely darkness, and I'm slightly terrified of that. But I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Good morning. I'm not going to lie to you, the coffee we roasted last night tastes a little bit fresh. It also tastes very satisfying. I am kind of delighted by the fact that we turned sunlight into coffee, and more coffee than maybe I really deep down thought we were going to get. The coffee itself, as I said, we'll give away. There's a link in the description down below to Bellwether's site where you can sign up to kind of enter to win, and they'll contact you directly if you do win some of this coffee. It's just a very nice, sweet, clean, delicious coffee. I didn't want to pick something that was kind of distractingly weird or unusual. I wanted people to taste the kind of roast development for a light roast and see what they think. This whole experiment, to me, has been a success. And the point of this is not to try and convince people to switch immediately to electric roasting, or is not to argue that electric roasters are more efficient than gas roasters. The point of this whole thing was about possibility to me. It's about change in the future and how we start now to adapt to the change that we need. I don't see us switching away from gas in the very near future. It's just too cheap, it's too embedded in what we do, but we have to at some point accept that burning liquefied squished dinosaurs is not the right way to roast delicious, sustainable coffee. And I'm interested in kind of pushing for that change without compromising the taste of the coffee. And so this experiment for me was just around, can we do it? Is it viable? Could you put some solar panels on a roof and have a battery and turn a day's sunlight in a cafe into a day's coffee? And yeah, depending where in the world you are, yes, for sure, but you could take a day's wind probably, or a day's, tidal energy or whatever renewable source and turn it into coffee if you're not reliant on burning gas. I had a good time. This was a gloriously bizarre experience. I'm grateful to Bellwether for saying yes. I'd love to know your thoughts on this whole thing down in the comments below. But for now, I'll say thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.